Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I am your host Jim Wiggin with Athearn Trains, and so glad you can join us. If you are joining us live on the Tuesday tonight, then welcome. And if you're catching up later and watching us on our YouTube channel, thanks for finding us out. If you like the content that you're seeing, do us a favor. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That way you're notified of every new video like this that drops into the channel. And go ahead and comment. I can't promise you that I'll answer every comment, but I try to answer as many as possible. So joining us tonight, slow start. We got about 31 so far that have joined us, but I see Sid has joined us, Alco, Wayne, Abel, Anthony, Cole, Brody, Zap, and Jason, just to name a few, have joined us in the sidebar chat. We're going to be talking Athearn HO scale models tonight, specifically SW1500 switchers as well as AC4400CWs. So it doesn't matter if you've got a small layout or a large layout, we've got something for you. And scale guys, you're going to have to hold tight for a couple of weeks. I don't have anything new for you tonight. Now, if you ever want to know what we're going to be talking about on a particular Train Tuesday, we usually post on social media as well as our YouTube channel on Monday mornings, and you'll see a show description, and that will let you know what the topic for the night is. So with that, let's do one more round of shout outs. I see Charles Woods has joined us. DG Model Works is in the house. Thomas, Ronald, Glenn Power Williams is here. Donnie has joined us. Just Into Trains is here. Delta 9 and many, many more. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. And speaking of busy, it is the Christmas holiday season. So I'm not getting as much modeling done as I normally would like. Hopefully you are. Boy, yeah, it's a busy time of year. So other than a Christmas train under the tree, I have not done much modeling, I'm ashamed to say. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with another Train Tuesday. We're going to talk about the SW1500s starting up first. So, a little background on these. The EMD SD1500, of course, 4-axle diesel switcher. It was built by EMD back between 1966 all the way to 1974. Pretty similar in appearance to the EMD 1000 model. It has a different engine. It has one more exhaust stack while than the SW1000. And power on this guy was an EMD 645E, which was a 12-cylinder engine, which generated about 1,500 horsepower. Now, this locomotive was built on the same common frame as the EMD SW1000, so it gave it an overall length of 44 feet, 8 inches. Now, the SW1500, it featured a slightly bulkier car body. It was a bit heavier from earlier models, although its intended use remained the same, which was working on light branch lines or an industrial setting. Now, many railroads regularly use their SW1500s for road freight service. And depending on the road, you might see different MU hoses attached to the front and back of pilots. Now, the locomotive that you see on your screen currently, this is actually in stock. This is a Minneapolis, Northfield, and Southern Railway locomotive, number 37, and it's in stock at your dealers right now. This particular one does have sound as well as DCC, and the item number for the model that you see is ATH29776. Again, that is ATH29776, and they are in stock now. So if you want to have a Mini added to your layout, here is your chance. These are in stock. Now let's talk about the pre-orders that are open until Friday, December 27th. We've got some new roads to show you, and I'm sure you're pretty excited about a few of these. So we're going to start by talking about Indiana Harbor Belt. Now, the Indiana Harbor Belt, of course, is the Chicago-Illinois area railroad. It serves as a connection between the many area Class 1 railroads there, facilitating the interchange of freight in between them. Now, they have a small fleet of these SW1500s that were purchased in the late 1960s and have since been upgraded, and we're offering them in 2 different paint schemes representing them at different times in their careers. Not only are there 2 different paint schemes, but there are some slight differences in the details. Let's start at the top of the screen with the 2002 era. Now, we're going to be offering 2 road numbers per paint scheme. In this case, you see number 1500 on your screen. we're also going to offer 1507. Now, the 2002 era model features details such as ARR trucks, firecracker antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, a single chime horn, and a snowplow on the front end. Now let's zoom forward to 2019. Not only do we get a new paint scheme, but we also have some other features that weren't available previously on the older models. These are representative of when they were reshopped, and we're offering 1512 as well as 1550. And again, this is 2019 on up. So if you're modeling modern day, you can definitely put these on your layout right now. Now, the features and details for the 2019 era include FlexiCoil trucks, Sinclair antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, 3-chime horn, and a snowplow. So there you have it. Indiana Harbor Belt guys have been asking for some models from Athearn for a little bit, so we wanted to offer these for you. Something near and dear to my area in which I'm in right now, Illinois Terminal. Illinois Terminal actually has a former right-of-way not far from where I'm doing the live feed tonight. So Illinois Terminal is kind of my home away from home railroad, and an interesting railroad at that. Now, these locomotives are painted in their late 1970s to early 1980s, just before Norfolk Western took them over. Now, the Illinois Terminal Railroad, it started out as an electrified interurban railroad, and it served many parts of the state of Illinois. In 1970, they purchased 6 EMD SW1500s for system-wide service. Now, their FlexiCoil trucks made them suitable for road and yard switching duties, and in this run, we're offering 2 of them in their ladder paint schemes, in which the road name is spelled out in the hood of the locomotive as seen here. 2 road numbers are being offered, 1514 that you see here, as well as 1515. Now, Illinois Terminal details for these locomotives include the FlexiCoil trucks, the whip antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, 3-chime horn, and MU catch boxes. Neat little corner sidebar discussion. There's a local pizza restaurant not far from me, and they have a picture of one of these SW1500s going through Monticello, Illinois. So if you got Google Earth, go ahead and check out Monticello, Illinois, and look up 105, and you can see that that road for a small town is unusually wide, and it's because the Illinois Terminal used to go straight down the middle of that road and on its way to Bement and then, of course, Decatur. And of course, these SW1500s were perfect for that interurban trackage where tight radius and branch line service was made for railroading to be pretty interesting. Now, the other one that's really cool is the Great Northern, and this is a later paint scheme. This is 1960s into the early 1970s. Now, of course, Great Northern was a longtime EMD customer, so in 1967, Great Northern purchased 10 EMD SW1500s to replace 10 of its aging Alco S2 switchers. Planning to use them in yard and transfer service, Great Northern ordered them with FlexiCoil trucks. They arrived in Great Northern's then new Big Sky blue paint scheme as seen here, but only for a few years. Eventually, they would be repainted in Cascade green and white as they faded into Burlington Northern history. And we're going to offer 3 different road numbers for the Great Northern in the Big Sky blue: 200, 202, and 208. Now, features specific for the Great Northern locomotives include FlexiCoil trucks, a firecracker antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, a 3-chime horn, footboards on both ends, and a beacon. Now, if you get the economy version equipped, that beacon will flash. Let's go into a little bit more newer era. And here's a couple of locomotives that you probably didn't think we were going to do. Let's start with the Alton Southern. This is based on a 1990s to early 2000s era paint scheme. Now, a little bit of history on this interesting short line. It's a 137-mile terminal switching railroad in the St. Louis area. For many years, it was jointly owned by both Missouri Pacific and Chicago Northwestern, as evidenced by their combined paint scheme that you see here. In 1972, the Chicago Northwestern sold their interest in the alternate Southern to the Cotton Belt. Now, because of mergers, is wholly subsidiary of Union Pacific. In 1969, the A&S began a locomotive ordering program that saw 18 SW1500s order over the course of 3 years. We're going to offer three road numbers of the Alton Southern: 1501, 1506, and 1508. And the details that are specific for the Alton Southern locomotives include ARR trucks, firecracker antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, and a single chime air horn. Now, here's one I bet a lot of you guys didn't see coming. The Foster Townsend Rail Logistics. This is a 2015 era on up, so relatively modern. Now, Foster Townsend Rail Logistics is a rail service company that provides rail car storage and switching services. Now, the product developers at Athearn found photos of 1515 in this attractive paint scheme, working in both St. Louis, Missouri, as well as Fort Collins, Colorado. So, if you've got a small shelf layout and you need some car storage and some switching, this is probably going to fit your needs perfectly. Now, details specific for this one locomotive: AAR trucks with roller bearings, firecracker antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, single chime horn, and this too has a Stratolite beacon. So if you get the economy-equipped version, that will function as well. Coming up next, we've got New Orleans Public Belt. This is 2008 to 2020. This is a paint scheme that lasted in between those eras. And the New Orleans Public Belt Railroad serves the Port of New Orleans, its owner. And it provides connections and switching services to many of the railroads that come into that southern city. Now, they received their three EMD SW1500s in 1971. We're going to be doing two of those: 1502 as well as 1503. Features on these locomotives include ARR trucks, Sinclair antenna, small fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, and a single chime horn. Now we're going to have some fun. We're going to have a little bit of fun. Pacific Electric. Now this is an alternate universe thing, 1960s to 1970s for this paint scheme. Now, the Southern Pacific had many subsidiary railroads, and some more independent than others, like the Cotton Belt, for example. Now, Pacific Electric had been a subsidiary of the company for many years, but was fully absorbed in the early 1960s. But suppose they had remained a subsidiary, and an independent-minded one at that, too. When SP went shopping for new switchers in the late 1960s, they bought EMD SW1500s for themselves and the Cotton Belt. So maybe they picked up a few for the Pacific Electric as well. Being independent-minded, they decided to commemorate their red car days and painted some up in their famous red paint scheme. And we think they would probably look something like this. Again, legendary liveries based on nothing but conjecture and fiction, but we still offer these because a lot of people really like these. We're going to do these in two different road numbers, 2444 and 2447. They're going to feature flexicoil trucks, whip antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, P3 horn, and footboards on both ends. I've got another legendary livery for you. And this one is kind of the same thing. Visalia Electric. Southern Pacific, again, had all these subsidiaries, and this is one of them. And when SP went shopping for 1500s, what would have happened if Visalia Electric needed one as well? Well, they probably would have stuck pretty close to their roots, as can be seen by this paint scheme here. This is how it could have appeared in the 1960s into the 1970s. We're only doing one road number in this paint scheme. It's 1502. Now, it's also going to have details such as flexicoil trucks, a whip antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, P3 air horn, and footboards on both ends. Going back to reality, we've got the L&N, the Louisville and Nashville. This is 1970s into the 1980s. So in early 1970s, the Louisville and Nashville purchased a group of 30 EMD SD1500s to supplement and replace some of their older first-generation Alco switchers. Now, they were primarily assigned to work in the southern areas of the L&N system in places like Atlanta, Georgia, Birmingham, Alabama, and of course, New Orleans. We're going to offer two different road numbers, 5015, as can be seen here, and 5027. Now, the details on these locomotives include flexicoil trucks, firecracker antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, and a small single chime horn. So quite a few different SW1500s that we're offering for the month of December. There's pretty much anything for everybody in this release. Now let's go back to the model that's currently in stock and let's talk about the features and details of this model. Now, of course, for complete details, you can go to our website at athearn.com and look up under new announcements and select the PDF or the see all for the SW1500 and see the complete details. But here's some of the high points. Now, again, this is an Athearn locomotive, but it has lit ground lights. That is something that you normally see in a Genesis model. Well, this is something that we did add to this model, and it's been something that's been well accepted. Another thing that's usually left for Genesis models is the detail cab interior. I've actually seen some great YouTube videos out there of the recent releases and seen some great detailing of these interiors. So there's a great starting base. And again, that's usually something that's left for a Genesis locomotive. Now, other details, and this is high level, again, you can go to athearn.com and see the complete details, but you're going to have drop steps unless otherwise noted. MU stands, dual exhaust stacks, printed number boards, because I don't want to decal that, fine scale handrails, and signal hoses as appropriate to the prototype road. Now, that's important to note. This is based on the prototype road. MU capability was a railroad specified option on these locos, and not all railroads ordered it. So consult your prototype photos for more information. Typically, if the railroad had these, then the model will have these. Now, it goes without saying, too, that when we redesigned these a couple of runs ago, they have a newly redesigned can motor. So not only is it quieter, but it's more powerful than before. So these little switchers can actually pull quite a bit as far as freight cars. And the minimum radius on these is 18 inches. So it doesn't matter if you have a large layout or the smallest 4x8, 4x6 layout, you can run these locomotives easily. Now, I know right now, shelf layouts are extremely popular, and these are the perfect candidate for shelf layouts. All right, so there we are, the SW1500s. I'm going to open up the floor for questions. Just keep in mind when I'm doing the presentation, I don't always see what people are saying. So if you've got a question on the SW1500s, go ahead and post those questions now. Glenn just wants to know the differences between the small fuel tanks and the large fuel tanks on the SW1500. Well, based on the prototype, but depending on what they were used for. If you're talking about the physical size, you can see kind of by the artwork that's on our website. But going back to what we were talking about earlier, a lot of railroads like the Illinois Terminal purchase these locomotives for branch line service. So hence they would have a larger fuel tank. Other railroads that were smaller terminal railroads or just used for switcher duty, they wouldn't have the need for a large fuel tank, not necessarily, so they would get a small fuel tank. Jason, yes, it's hard. It's dry up here, and I will slip over words like that. That is what's fun about doing live. Good for you. You heard SD instead of SW. It's SW, but boy, it's dry up here. So let's see. Cole says, hey, Jim, you think we could see some Union Pacific and Canadian National SW1500s? Well, not in this run, but I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell you in every Train Tuesday, every social media post, every train show I go to. If you don't see what you want, you can go to Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. Again, that's Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. And hopefully I pronounced that right for Jason. But that's your best bet. Send us a suggestion there. I have so many of you guys come up to me just totally exhausted and mad saying, I keep telling you in the comments section, I want the ABC 123. Well, if you put it on social media, chances are our guys aren't going to see it because our product developers, they're busy, well, product developing. So send us an email. The email is the best shot of seeing something produced in the future. And again, that's Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. Let's see what else we've got out there. Tom wants to know, do the AAR trucks on these SW1500s come with plain bearings as an option? I believe they do, because one of the locomotives, I can't remember off the top of my head, comes with roller bearing. Most of them, I believe, just come with the plain bearings. BN Green 1970 says, I have one of the BN ones from last year's release. Yeah, so do I. I had to grab one. I have to admit, it's a pretty nice loco for Athearn. Would not take much to make it a Genesis. Yeah, that is really true. I mean, I'm really impressed. I picked up the Conrail and I picked up the Burlington Northern from the last run, and yeah, they are definitely, yeah, definitely not too far. A little bit of work and you could do it. Let's see. Charles, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say there. Train Jack, where were you? We were talking about this. Where were you, Train Jack? Yes, they have cab interiors already. It's normally a Genesis feature, but we did pack them into this Athearn release. So, as they say in the trucking world, keep your ears on. Unless you just joined us. If you just joined us, Sid saying get some water. Well, it doesn't look really good if I'm doing a broadcast and I'm drinking water all the time. Let's see. I'm going back a little bit in case somebody had a question while I was doing presentation. Stephen Wagner says SW1500s had cab windows big enough to allow interior details to be seen easily, which is very good. And if you're operating one, I can tell you from experience, I have operated not an well, maybe I have done an SW1500, definitely an NW2, and man, the visibility is really nice and appreciated. What else have we got? A couple of not as many comments about the legendary liveries, which is funny because that is usually a trigger point for a few guys. All right. Well, I think that covers everything. I'm going to go down to the new comments and see. All right. Well, let's go on to the next one. And let's talk something bigger. We're gonna switch brands. We're gonna talk General Electric, and we're gonna talk 6-axle. We're gonna talk AC4400CWs, but these are not Genesis. These are Athearn. Now, before we go on, normally with the Athearn brand, we offer two different versions. We have the DC only, which is DCC ready, and then we have the DCC with economy and sound. We didn't do that. We didn't do that on this version for a couple of different reasons. We've been listening to a lot of you guys sending us email. We've been listening to guys at train shows, and not everybody wants the full house sound. Not everybody's, I mean, believe it or not, there's still a lot of guys out there. I'm sure some of you guys that are watching this are still perfectly happy with DC. And we wanted to try to keep costs down for budget-minded modelers. Also, maybe for whatever reason, you're not a fan of whatever decoder we're putting into our locomotives at this time. So what you can do is you can purchase one of these and put in the decoder of your choice, which allows you to basically set up the locomotive the way you want it to have, be set up. And it also allows you to detail it a little bit more. So these are coming only as DCC ready. Now let's talk about some of the roads that we're doing. We've got some roads in here that are legendary liveries. We've also got some roads that are stand-ins because the actual model doesn't exist, we had some liberties with paint schemes because we wanted to offer those stand-ins for you and your railroad. So let's get started. Now, of course, we all know this, the AC4400, it was introduced by General Electric in 1993. Production ran right up until 2004 when it was replaced by the Evolution Series Tier 2 compliant model. Now, the AC4400CW is still a staple of modern railroading. Over 2,834 were built. Many are still found on the rails today, and they can be seen either as in their delivered configurations or as rebuilt locomotives. Many Class 1 regional and foreign railroads purchased the AC4400, and so we're happy to offer this in the Athearn line. Again, please keep in mind, this is not Genesis. This is the Athearn line, and we're trying to keep costs at a minimum for guys that want to further detail their models. Now, the one that you see on your screen, this is from many, many years ago. This is a BNSF that we offered, like I said, many years ago. So you're probably not going to find it too easily. But let's talk about what you can get easily by pre-ordering before Friday the 27th. So we've got some fun stuff here. We're going to start at the very top of the page with Norfolk Southern. This is 2024. Norfolk Southern 4822 was unveiled on June 8th, 2024 at the Railroaders Memorial Museum in Altoona, PA at Norfolk Southern's Family Day event. Now, the unit was painted by Norfolk Southern as a tribute to its railroaders, the hardworking employees that keep their trains going. Now, again, this is a stand-in, so don't send us hate mail. This is a stand-in, and we wanted to offer it for you guys. Railroaders Tribute number 4822, just one. And the features specific for Norfolk Southern include 3 dynamic brake intakes, high number boards, Nathan P3 horn, and General Electric high adhesion trucks. Going in the middle, we're going to go back to reality here. CSX, we got some dark future for you. This is 2012 on up. We're offering 3 different road numbers in the dark future. We've got 59, 68, and 72. Features that are specific for CSX include 3 dynamic brake intakes, low number boards, Nathan K5LAR-24 horn, and of course, high adhesion trucks. Now here's one. This one's great. You look at it, and it looks fine at first, and then you look at it again, and you're like, something doesn't look quite right. Well, this is an alternate future, technically a legendary liveries, but we had some fun with this one. So suppose, we know that in 2005, BNSF created a new paint scheme, but what if they came out with something like the H1 scheme, but a little bit different? So this one we're calling the H4. The green has been replaced by the black. The logo has gone from the circle cross to the swoosh version, and the orange band has been widened. In this alternate future paint scheme, we have suggested what an older BNSF AC4400CW would look like in this newer H4 scheme. No, it's not real, but it's really kind of cool, and it's plausible. It's totally plausible, especially when you rail fan the BNSF and you're still seeing Cascade Green and yellow and blue Santa Fe equipment occasionally. So we all know that they experimented with a lot of different paint schemes before settling on what they have now. So it's plausible. Anyways, if you're a fan of this paint scheme, we're going to offer it in 3 different road numbers: 5606 that you see on your screen now, 5608, and 5614. Details specific for these BNSF locomotives include 2 dynamic brake intakes, gull wing cab, Nathan K3 horn, and those General Electric high adhesion trucks. Okay, so we do have one now that's going to go back into reality. And this is a 2023 era Feromex. I'm saying Feromex because somebody lit me up in the comments a while ago and said Feromex is not how you pronounce it, it's Feromex. We'll see if the comments get lit up with the proper pronunciation this week. In the spring of 2020, Feromex introduced the zebra paint scheme on their brand new locomotives. Several of their older AC4400CWs have been repainted into this new scheme. Pretty cool paint scheme. I think a lot of people agree this is a really cool paint scheme. And we're going to do 3 different road numbers for the Fearomex: 4511, 4527, and 4530. And their details will include 3 dynamic brake intakes, low number boards, Nathan P3 horn, and General Electric steerable trucks. Now, here's one that's generated a lot of interest on our social media feeds, and it's the Western New York and Pennsylvania. Now, this is 2019 on up. The Western New York and Pennsylvania Railroad extends across southwestern New York and northwestern Pennsylvania from Hornell, New York to Meadville, Pennsylvania, and Oil City, Pennsylvania, and north and south of Olean, New York. This short line has become a rail fan favorite, probably because of their interesting fleet of non-EMD power. And that's including many Alco locomotives and a few General Electric models as well. So we're going to have 2 road numbers offered in this run: 6001 that you see on your screen and 6005. Now, features specific for the Western New York and Pennsylvania locomotives include 3 dynamic brake intakes, low number boards, General Electric steerable trucks, and, which is really kind of cool about this, these have road specific features. 6001 will include a Nathan P5 horn, while 6005 will include a Nathan K5 LAR-24 horn. And one from my other neck of the woods, Central Maine and Quebec. This is 2018 plus. These are, or were, not too far from where my stomping grounds are in New Hampshire. Now, these CMQ units started life as CEFX 1002 and 1006, which were leased to the Canadian Pacific after the construction in 2001. Upon coming off their lease, they were painted in the beautiful CMQ livery for service on this Class II railroad operating in Maine, Vermont, and the province of Quebec. We're offering 1002 and 1006 accordingly. Pretty cool paint scheme. One that, man, I wish I could have seen it a lot longer, and, well, we all know. Features for the Central Maine and Quebec: 2 dynamic brake intakes, high number boards, Nathan P3 horn, and General Electric high adhesion trucks. Pretty cool. I might have to figure out a way to justify grabbing both of these. And then finally, and I know I haven't even looked at comments yet, but I know I pronounced one of those towns wrong back there, even though I'm from the Northeast. It's one of those things. Don't ever go to San Jose, Illinois, and say San Jose, but whatever. So we've got a couple of different demonstrators here. General Electric, 2005 era. Now, this attractive General Electric demonstrator scheme first appeared in 2005 in this attractive blue and green scheme, along with the stylized lightning bolt, which has become synonymous with AC traction units. We're going to offer 2005 as well as 2011, and their features are going to include 2 dynamic brake intakes, high number boards, Nathan K5 HR-24 horn, and General Electric high adhesion trucks. And then finally, Athearn. So you're probably thinking, wait a minute, Athearn didn't have any of these. Well, if Athearn was an actual railroad, how would the company have ushered in the new era of AC traction motors? Perhaps their paint shop would have been busy with this flashy paint scheme, kind of a play on the paint scheme of the demonstrator. Now, it would feature a stylized lightning bolt that separates the older Athearn light blue from the newer dark blue that we currently use. And this unique model conveys 2 transitions, DC to AC, and the Athearn blue colors on a single car body, and it's available in 2 road numbers that are reflective of the locomotive horsepower, 4400 and 4401. Now, features for the Athearn locomotives include 2 dynamic brake intakes, high number boards, Nathan K5 HR-24 horns, and the high adhesion trucks. Now let's talk about some of the features, and remember, these are going to be available just as DC only. They're ready for you to put in the decoder of your choice, but I want to let that be known. These are priced for the budget conscious modeler or the modeler that's got time to super detail these. And boy, I wish I had that kind of time. So what are some of the features? Well, illuminated ditch lights. I know ditch light era guys are almost like a religion Well, you're going to be happy to know that these have illuminated ditch lights. There are 3 cab variations based on the prototype. See-through cab windows, of course, no interior in there. You're going to have to get busy with some evergreen styrene and do that on your own. Factory applied sunshades, frame mounted bell, exhaust stack, brake wheel, rear sand filler, air tanks, and more. These also do already come equipped with separately applied wire grab irons, so that's a really nice feature. Fine scale handrails, and depending on the prototype, steerable or high-ad trucks with separate shock struts and brake cylinders per the prototype. These are going to have the 5,000-gallon fuel tank. And here's the important part. These are DCC ready, and they feature the quick plug and play technology with the 21-pin NEM connector. So that's a big deal. LED lighting for long life and reliable operation. And if you want to know the minimum radius, you can technically run these on an 18-inch radius. We recommend a radius of 22, but if you really, really want one of these and you have an 18-inch radius, well, go ahead, you're fine. They'll operate just fine. So there you have it. What? We're almost halfway through the month. It's hard to believe, but you've only got until Friday, December 27th, so that you can place pre-orders on anything that we've talked about here tonight. And with that, that is the end of the presentation for the night. Let's see what kind of questions you've got on the Athearn AC4400CWs, or the questionability of my pronunciation of towns, or whatever else is on your mind tonight. Let's see what we've got out there in the comments section. I'm going to go back a little bit. And see what kind of questions. See, I told you, it's always in every episode. Speaking of pronunciation, I wasn't speaking of it, but Mike says I was. It's pronounced Olean. Many towns in Western New York are not pronounced the way you expect. Yeah, come to Illinois. We got some fun ones too. I'd love to see you pronounce them on lives. It's all in good fun. Let's see what else we've got. This is different. I really like the Herald on the Western New York and Pennsylvania, the AC4400CW, with the downward view of couplers, very clever. The line had the same management as the B&H and the LA and L, the smaller locos. Thank you, Stephen, for some information there. What else have we got? Oh, there's arguments in the comment section about pronunciation. I'm going to stay out of that one. I bet only 2 people in here could pronounce my hometown. Let's see what else we've got. Anything about the locomotives? No city rails in this release. Randall says, I really like the Athearn commemorative locomotive. And, you know, Randall, you kind of prove a point there. There's a lot of people that do. The PD guys started to do that a couple of years ago, and I was kind of like, well, okay, whatever, let's see what happens. And they sell out every time. So if you like the Athearn commemorative edition, if you will, and we release cabooses, passenger cars, regular freight cars from time to time, pre-order them because they do sell out quick. Ask Tony Cook. He knows. Jason, wow, this is going to be hard for you. He says, oh man, you're going to make me buy my first General Electric. See? Give in. If you didn't know, Jason is a big EMD fan. For good reason. I think the railroad he works for has one Alco and everything else is EMD. Let's see what else we've got. Again, there's a couple of guys saying, hey, oh, Anthony, this is a good question. Will they come with speakers? The answer is no. And you're probably saying, wait a minute. And Anthony and a lot of you other might be wondering, well, wait a minute, you've done Athearn locomotives in the past with the speaker already factory installed, so all I got to do is put in my decoder of my choice. We didn't do this time. And the reason why we did that is because it would have cost us a little bit of time more than anything to retrofit these to make it have the factory speakers. We wanted to keep the cost down because, again, we're getting a lot of feedback from modelers like you. They're saying, hey, Jim, Genesis is great. I don't always have the budget for that, you know? I don't mind putting on my own details. I don't mind putting in my own decoder and my own speaker and things of that nature. That's part of the fun of the hobby for me. So rather than just flood you with a bunch of Genesis, we want to give you some options like this. So these basically come out of the box DC, but DCC ready. And after that, it's yours. You can do whatever you like with it. You can. We also know that there's some great speaker selections out there by some smaller companies. Go ahead, outfit it, trick it out the way you like, and detail it the way you like. That reminds me too, speaking about tricking out and detailing our models, DG Model Works, I think he was here in the comments earlier. He's got a video up. It's relatively new, a couple of weeks ago. He took some GP40-2s from the Athearn line, and he super detailed one of them. So go over to DG Model Works channel and check that video out. And kind of give you an idea of what you can do with these Athearn locomotives. Let's see what else we got. Delta 9's got a name for the ditch light folks. He calls them ditch lightarian. Help me out, Delta. Ditch lightians? Yeah, it's kind of a religion. Oh, let's see. JD Boyd says, hey, can you give me a side-by-side? What's the difference between the Athearns and the Genesis? What does Genesis have that these don't? That's a great question. So let's remember something when we're talking about the different brands. Genesis, of course, is the top tier. Okay, Athearn is our mid hobby grade level. So when you order an Athearn AC4400, it's going to have road specific details. That means that if CSX ordered this type of horn and this type of bell, those models will have that. Beyond that, the detail is just as they were factory new. And I think you're in your question too, you're just asking about DC, so we won't get into decoders. When you go to the Genesis level, not only are they road name specific, but they are road number specific. We all know that as railroads accept new inventory of locomotives, over time, those locomotives will change. There's additions, there's deletions. Sometimes horns are changed out for other horns. Sometimes they're moved. Different equipment gets changed around. If you work on the railroad, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what Genesis does. Genesis may have 3 locomotives that are all from CSX, but each one of those locomotives may have a variation in its paint. It may have a different detail. And another thing, it's going to have way more detail than a Athearn locomotive is going to have. Some of those details include you're going to have a detailed interior with your AC4400 in the Genesis line versus no interior. You're going to have details like lighting that the Athearn locomotive does not have. You're also going to have details like see-through grading on your steps, more details as far as specifically to that prototype number. So quite a bit. However, if you're someone that is wanting to easily get more power on your railroad and not breaking the bank, the Athearns are a great way to go. And there is nothing stopping you from taking an Athearn locomotive and making it just as detailed and superb as a Genesis. It just takes time. Great question. Any update on the Surfliners? Actually, I do. I don't have anything that's in print right now, but I did find out that we got some stuff worked out on the decoders. There were some things that we were working on, and it looks like product development is eagerly waiting for those decoders to come in so I could do some final testing. And I'm hoping in the next coming months we'll have more details, which means I can actually share some pictures with you. Yeah, Glenn says, thank you, Jim, for doing the Central Maine and Quebec units. It's now a fallen flag railroad. Yeah, I know. That's too bad. Let's see what else we've got. Do they come with speakers? No, Russ, you might have missed that, or I just saw your question later. Jim, Haven't gotten an answer about having a Train Tuesday for new releases actually being released. Thank you. So Train Tuesday is predominantly about pre-orders. Everything that we talk about is pre-order. It sounds like you want to see a video of when actual items are going to come in stock. We haven't done anything like that. Maybe after the new year, if I can get caught up on some things, maybe we can do that. I will tell you that 2025, we are getting a lot more models coming in. We're trying to catch up from that backlog. Unfortunately, a backlog doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while for the factory to get up to speed, get all those models done. But also, you can also watch our email newsletter. I try to keep folks apprised of what's going on and what's shipping through our email newsletter. If you haven't done that, go over to athearn.com and sign up. You can sign up with the pop-up, or if you missed the pop-up, just go all the way down to the bottom of the page and you can sign up at a link down there. Relatable says I'm late. That's all right. This goes on YouTube as soon as this live is over, and you can watch it later. We get a lot of guys that actually watch Train Tuesday on the weekend while they're working on stuff, and I'm so envious that they're sitting there on a Saturday at their workbench working on their models. Sid wants to know status on the BPRR SD60M Triclops. I'm hoping before the end of this year. I'm hoping. In fact, I think I've got some to photograph with our photographer tomorrow. Let's see. Going down a little bit. Yeah, sorry, Willie. No more dummy units. We're not going to do those anymore. Don't know about aftermarket interior kits, Jay. I haven't looked at those specifically for a while. Jason says, well, Jason, the SD1500 will work on your railroad. I'm just giving you a hard time. It's fine. Will work fine on his railroad. I think you have the Railroad of Lies, if I remember right. The AC4400CW is too modern for me. Well, I get it. But those 1500s will work out nicely for you. Charles Woods wants to know, well, what do you care? You're an N-scale guy, Charles. No, he says, hey, Jim, are there going to be dummy units to these locomotives in the future? No, actually, we won't do those. The reason why we don't do those, we did them in the past, a long time ago, Blue Box era. Going back to the dark ages of model railroading, when a lot of people were just doing DC, you know, it was common to have a dummy unit B unit or a dummy locomotive, so it looked like you were, you know, being prototypically accurate. Nowadays with DCC, it's just so much better to actually have the actual power. I mean, why have dead weight? I mean, any railroader would tell you that a dead locomotive in tow isn't worth it. So that's the more practical reason. The cost reason, and I know a lot of you guys aren't going to believe this. They're going to say, yeah, Jim's just telling us Horizon corporate stuff. But it really is true. Our Mark, our category manager, has done the math 6 ways to Sunday. It's actually going to cost us more money to make dummies than it wouldn't be you know, without the motor and such. And you're like, well, wait a minute, the motor's expensive and the drivetrain's expensive and all that's expensive. Yes, it is, if you think about it, but there's one component that you're leaving out of that equation that's actually more expensive than the component itself, and that's the labor. So the labor of actually putting these together with motors and without motors is just, yeah. So that ship has sailed. It's almost as bad as trying to buy a car nowadays with manual windows. They're all electric, I think. Chances are you're probably operating in DC. The good news is these motors now are so fine-tuned, and that's pretty much true with all manufacturers, not just Athearn, that you can probably run 2 powered units and not have to worry about any issues, especially if they're from the same batch. Let's see what else we got. couple of guys asking for Triclops delivery time. Yes, it's getting close. All right. So I'm seeing a lot of comments about what we should do. Remember, you've got Athearn product suggestions at athearn.com. You can send those suggestions in there. And Andrew says, hey, there's still DC guys out there. You're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, let's face it, I actually operate an N scale layout north of me that is all blocks and DC, and it operates just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And that's another reason why we want to offer this AC4400 as a DC, because we realize not everybody out there's got DCC. So there you go. Let's see. Any update on the RX500? I don't have an update for you. I was really hoping that we were going to do an announcement for that. We did a soft announcement at the National Train Show it's been about a year or so. I think it was at the Texas show. And yeah, nothing yet, but hang tight. We are working on it. There's a lot. I mean, you got to realize that model is ground up, brand new. Nothing in our inventory. It's not like John went over to a bunch of parts bins and was able to put, no, he's ground up new locomotive. It's going to be nice. Yeah, for you DC guys, here's proof. Let's see, I had some, oh, here we go, Matthew. Yes, I can run up to 4 powered locos on DC on the same track. There you go. A lot better than it used to be. No updates on any GP60s. Let's see. Sid wants to know, can I order you some Sprite? Actually, no, I don't really drink soda. I'm more of a water guy. Jason says, Jim, I'm ready to skip 2025 and go to the 2026 for the NMRA convention. I think I know why. I think it's in your neck of the woods. Actually, I'm looking forward to, Athearn is planning on doing the 2025 NMRA in Novi, Michigan. Is it Novi? Let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to that. But I'm also looking forward to the one in 2026 because that's going to be south of me. And hopefully some of you that I haven't gotten to meet at, say, Train Fest or Amherst, hopefully I'll get to meet some of you guys there. All right, let's do one, maybe two more questions, and let's let you get back to some modeling. Have you guys done the GP30s? A long time ago, blue box era. Haven't done anything recently. There is another manufacturer out there that makes a very nice GP30. So rather than make another GP30, we let them do it. That's the beauty of this hobby, is because of the different manufacturers, there's variety for you, the consumer. You're the winner. There's so much good stuff out there. So we do some stuff that the other guys don't do, and they do stuff that we don't do, and it all works out together. Charles, where'd you go? Charles, you're getting me. What about any General Electric locomotives, U30, CS, and GE locos in the future? I don't know. I can tell you that in 2025 we've got some new projects, but I don't think any of those are in there. Let's see. Train Jack wants to know, is Horizon Hobby still a partnership with NASCAR? I don't know. What he's referring to is Michael McDowell, who drives the 34 Ford Mustang in NASCAR. Front Row Racing has had Horizon Hobby as a sponsor for, I believe, the last 2 years. And I've been fighting to have an Athearn car. That'd be kind of cool. Go to a NASCAR race and see an Athearn car. But we had one of the best things is we had a Horizon wrapped Mustang, and it won Indianapolis last year. And I don't know. I don't know if we're going to continue that next year or not. We'll have to see. I guess we'll all have to wait and see. Let's see. Frederick, I want to get you because you got a question. When are the GP38-2s coming? I believe they're going to be coming late spring, early summer of 2025. Harold says, let me prepare to build up my layout for all this equipment coming in. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot coming in the next few months. All right. Well, it looks like that is the most of the questions. I appreciate your patience, my butchering of hometown names, and spending some time with me in the layout room talking about Train Tuesday. Now, remember, everything that I've talked about here tonight or on this video, you've got until Friday, December 27th to place your pre-orders. Hard to believe we're almost at the end of the year. We're going to 2025 here pretty soon. I can't wait to see the new products that we're going to have announced in 2025, and I can't wait to see you hopefully at the next train show. So until next Tuesday, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe. Try to get some modeling done more than I've been doing the last 2 weeks. And above all, high greens. Take care, everyone.